Pinocchio's nose grows in first clip from live-action Disney movie. Disney has released a brand new full clip from their upcoming live-action remake of Pinocchio. In recent years, the company has been focused on remaking their classic animated features, bringing everything from their classic princess films Cinderella and Beauty and the Beast to other childhood classics like Dumbo and The Jungle Book to new life on the big screen. However, they haven't skimped on the small screen either. In fact, one of their first major Disney Plus features after the streaming service's launch was a live-action retelling of Lady and the Tramp. As a premiere access option in 2020, they also premiered their live-action retelling of Mulan when it wasn't able to open wide in theaters due to the COVID-19 pandemic. This new version of Pinocchio, which was originally adapted by Disney from the Carlo Collodi children's book The Adventures of Pinocchio as an animated feature in 1940, was directed by Back to the Future's Robert Zemeckis and begins streaming on September 8, 2022. The film stars Tom Hanks as Geppetto, a lowly woodcarver who makes a puppet named Pinocchio, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, who comes to life and desires to be a real boy, followed by his conscience, embodied in the form of Jiminy Cricket, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Pinocchio, whose wooden nose grows whenever he tells a lie, gets into a variety of comic scrapes. The cast of this new iteration will also include Luke Evans as the coachman, Keegan-Michael Key as Honest John, and Cynthia Erivo as the Blue Fairy. Disney shared a brand new clip showing off both Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket. The scene takes place after Pinocchio has joined a marionette show and is locked in a birdcage backstage. As he lies to Jiminy about the decisions that led to his incarceration, his nose begins to grow and grow. Because both the characters featured in this clip are CGI, it really shows off the designs that Zemeckis is utilizing for this project. The director has made a name for himself in experimenting with using CGI technology, from his early computer-generated motion capture animated films The Polar Express and A Christmas Carol to his recent works like the CGI lot and Welcome to Marwen. This new project certainly seems in keeping with those works, as the CGI is being used to create stylized versions of the characters, rather than photorealistic interpretations, like what was seen in Jon Favreau's 2019 The Lion King. While reactions to the characters' designs will vary, the story being told in this clip is very familiar. Disney clearly hasn't strayed too far from their original film for this adaptation of Pinocchio. That will likely comfort those who want something recognizable and familiar amid the all-new look and feel of a live-action world. Brendan Fraser, the whale received long-standing ovation at Venice Film Festival. Brendan Fraser is having a moment at the Venice International Film Festival. The once ubiquitous movie star of the Mummy franchise and George of the Jungle had, in the last decade, backed away from the spotlight. But Fraser is charting what could be a major comeback, starting with his transformative role in Darren Aronofsky's The Whale, which had its world premiere Sunday night at the festival. As the credits rolled in the Solid Grand Theater, the audience gave the film a long-standing ovation while Fraser, on the balcony alongside his director and co-stars, wiped tears away. Fraser plays Charlie, a reclusive English teacher with a kind soul who weighs 600 pounds, 270 kilograms. While the film already has pundits predicting Oscar nominations, Fraser is trying not to think about whether awards are in his future. "I'm just trying to stay in today," Fraser said before the premiere. Aronofsky has been trying to make The Whale for about 10 years. He vividly remembers reading the New York Times review of Samuel D. Hunter's play, going out to see it, and knowing he had to meet the writer. One line in particular stuck out to him: "People are incapable of not caring. It's why," he said, "he had to make the film." But casting presented a challenge. To a lot of Sam Hunter's pain, "It took me 10 years to make this movie, and that's because it took me 10 years to cast," Aronofsky said. "Casting Charlie was a huge challenge. I considered everyone. Every single movie star on the planet. But none of it really clicked. It didn't move me. It didn't feel right." Then, a few years ago, he saw a trailer for a low-budget Brazilian movie with Fraser, and a light bulb went off, he said. Fraser, who also has a role alongside Leonardo DiCaprio in Martin Scorsese's next film, Killers of the Flower Moon, said he doesn't know an actor in my peer group worth his weight in salt who wouldn't want to work with Darren. "Plus, by far and away I think Charlie is the most heroic man I have ever played," Fraser added. "His superpower is to see the good in others, and bring that out of them." Prosthetics were used to transform Fraser into Charlie, who rarely leaves his couch. "I needed to learn to absolutely move in a new way. I developed muscles I did not know that I had. I even felt a sense of vertigo at the end of the day when all the appliances were removed, as you would feel stepping off of a boat in Venice," Fraser said. "It gave me an appreciation for those with bodies similar. I learned that you need to be an incredibly strong person, physically, mentally, to inhabit that body." Beyond his physicality, Charlie is also a character with profound empathy and love for everyone around him, including his estranged daughter, Ellie, played by Stranger Things star Sadie Sink. She's got a lot of things to say, so she comes in hot. But I think what she's not expecting is someone who cares so much about her, Sink said. For someone like Charlie to see that there's good in someone like Ellie, is throwing her for a loop. Hunter, who also wrote the screenplay, said his play is personal. He started it 12 years ago when he was teaching a mandatory expository writing course at Rutgers University that no one wanted to take, and everyone resented. He also pulled from his own background, setting the play in his hometown of Moscow, Idaho, and weaving in his history of being depressed, self-medicating with food, and going to a fundamentalist religious high school as a gay teenager. I was afraid to write it, he said. I thought the only way I can do it is if I write it from a profoundly place of love and empathy. I wanted, Charlie, to be a lighthouse in the middle of a dark, dark sea. The whale was Aronofsky's favorite kind of challenge in that it had so many limitations. He learned long ago on 1998's Pi that boundaries are your gateway to freedom. On that film, he only had $20,000 in a dream. In Mother, he was limited to a house. And, in The Whale, it's not just a single apartment, it's also a character who doesn't move much. He and cinematographer Matthew Libatique, whose friendship stretches back to their days at the American Film Institute in 1990, spent quite a bit of time talking about how to turn theater into cinema, and how to make that engaging and exciting. In the rough cut, Aronofsky said he was relieved to find that it didn't feel claustrophobic. Fraser added that the film is a piece of cinema. Proper cinema. Venice is a regular stop for Aronofsky, who in 2008 won the Golden Lion for The Wrestler, and also debuted Black Swan and The Fountain on the Lido. He said the festival is like home. Aronofsky and his actors could be poised to leave with trophies in hand this year too. The Whale is part of the official competition of the festival, which will be decided on by a Julianne Moore-led jury on September 10th, and A24 plans to release it in theaters on December 9th. But he's mostly just glad to be back with his first film since 2017's Mother. The last few years, so many of us have lost so much. Cinema is about human connection. It's about the chance to slide into someone else's shoes and have 2 hours of empathy in someone else's mind. I think that's exactly what the world needs. I'm just so happy to be back, Aronofsky said. It's a big moment for me and, I think, for cinema. Halloween classic Trick or Treat is getting its first ever theatrical release this October. Halloween will be coming a little early this year to the millions of passionate horror geeks out there, because Trick or Treat is finally making its theatrical debut. Yes, director Michael Dougherty's beloved cult classic horror anthology, filmed in 2007 and never released on home video until 2009, is finally headed for movie theaters. Thanks to a program with participating Regal Cinemas locations, the film will screen on 5 dates in early October, starting on Thursday, October 6th. Trick or Treat is a film we've written extensively about at Paste over the years, naming it the best horror movie of 2007, and additionally proclaiming it as the ultimate Halloween night movie. Indeed, there's just something about the vibe of Trick or Treat, where many horror films are set in the Halloween season. None of them, including Halloween itself, in fact, has so much obvious ardor for the spirit of the holiday. Dougherty's movie is the most loving tribute to the holiday that has ever been committed to film, which makes it all the more shocking that audiences were almost denied a chance to see it at all. After the film was initially meant for a theatrical release in 2007, the studio seemingly got cold feet, perhaps unsure of how to promote an unusual anthology without much star power behind it. Trick or Treat subsequently lingered in development hell until it received a physical media release with little fanfare in 2009. However, the film and its now iconic avatar known as Sam were not to be denied. Trick or Treat slowly began to build a cult of admirers, and it wasn't long before horror geeks started regarding it as a seasonal classic. TV airings quickly followed, exposing the film to a wider audience, and minting Trick or Treat as a cult classic in the process. In the years that have followed, the film has now generated copious merchandise, and even a Halloween Horror Nights tribute at Universal Studios. The one thing it's never had, though, is a proper theatrical release, until now. In the years since Trick or Treat was released, director Dougherty has ascended the Hollywood ladder, helming the similar holiday horror Krampus, before jumping into the big leagues with Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And yet, it seems as if the director retains a special place in his heart for the fandom of Trick or Treat in particular, so we can only imagine he's likely thrilled that something he poured his heart into so many years ago will finally get the theatrical exhibition it always deserved. Family competition crosses the line in the estate. It is undeniably human that remembering to call one's unpleasant, grouchy but wealthy relative often goes hand in hand with needing financial aid. It's sad but true that we are impelled to be nicer to people we need help from. This is precisely what the upcoming comedy movie The Estate explores with its premise. The film's recently released trailer showcases a scheming family going at each other's throats in order to be the ones to inherit a dying wealthy member's estate. Directed and written by the mind behind Death at a Funeral, British filmmaker Dean Craig, the estate centers around a pair of sisters, Savannah and Macy, played respectively by Anna Faris and Toni Collette, who are in dire need of money to save their business. When they learn that their mean Aunt Hilda, portrayed by Kathleen Turner, is dying of cancer, the two desperate sisters formulate a plan to get their aunt to add them to her will. However, they soon discover that they were not the only sharks who smelled blood. The trailer begins with Savannah and Macy's mother, Hilda's sister, stating her absolute disinterest in the fact that her sibling is soon to be 6 feet under. It becomes apparent that no one is truly saddened by the fact that the aunt is nearing the end of her life. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" Savannah asks. Understanding her sister's thought process, Macy replies Aunt Hilda is never going to write us into her will. "She doesn't even like us, she doesn't like anybody," the youngest of the two protests. Indeed, when the trailer introduces us to Aunt Hilda, who is nothing less than sarcastic and snide. Even so, the two sisters are not the only ones who are willing to put up with a bitter dying lady. They quickly find out that their cousin Beatrice, portrayed by Rosemarie DeWitt, came all the way from New York with a similar plan in mind. And like Beatrice, it seems that other members of the family had the same idea. And thus, the race commences to earn Aunt Hilda's approval in her inheritance. Produced by Signature Films, Capstone Studios, and Pretty Matches Productions, the comedy also stars David Duchovny, Ron Livingston, Kale Monteroso Maya, and Billy Slaughter. The estate will hit theaters on Friday, November 4th.